Personal power doesn't live in force. It lives in truth, in balance, and in expression. This is the kind of magic that doesn't shout, it resonates. Hi, my name's Gayle, the Witch Next Door. Welcome back to Wild Wisdom. And this is part 2 of a 3-part Wild Wisdom series, all about chakra balancing and crystal healing. And today we're moving through the middle chakras, and that's the energetic centre of our bodies. And the middle chakras is where we explore our personal power, our emotional balance, our heart-led truth, and our authentic expression. As a qualified crystal healer, I want to say this gently but very clearly. The middle chakra work is not about fixing anything, and it's not about forcing our confidence. It's about coming back into alignment with who you already are. In part 1, I helped you feel steadier and more grounded, and part 2 is where that steadiness begins to flow outward. In this episode, we will explore what personal power actually means in energy work, why confidence and compassion must grow in unison and together, how crystal healing can support emotional balance and our expression. And we will work with stones in this episode like citrine, amazonite and lapis lazuli, because they are core to our middle chakras. And then finally, we want to think about how to express ourselves without overreaching or shutting down, because that is middle chakra work in its essence. As always, feel free to jump around the chapters or stay for the whole journey. So let's begin, shall we? So in chapter 1, we're going to talk about what the middle chakras actually govern. And the middle chakras are where we experience our confidence and our self-worth. Our emotional processing also sits within this area. We talk about our compassion and our connection. And then equally, we have our truth and our voice and our expression. So this is where many people can feel blocked. And this isn't about a lack of power. This is because we have learned to soften ourselves in order to stay completely safe. In my crystal healing work, I see this again and again. People trying to open their voice or their heart without first asking a few questions like, do I feel safe to be seen? And that's really important in middle chakra work, because this isn't about being louder. It's about being truer to ourselves. So chapter 2, this is about power without force. And we're often taught culturally or spiritually, even magically, that power looks like effort. And actually that can show up as pushing through resistance when we shouldn't be, asserting ourselves loudly because we feel like that's being heard, proving our self-worth time and time again, and then also trying to manifest harder when something isn't actually working for us in the first place. This version of power is actually tense energy, and it's future orientated, and it's usually trying to correct a feeling of lack. Underneath that energy is often a question humming quietly to ourselves, like, do we even feel enough? Am I enough yet? And that's why this version of power can be really exhausting. When we define power as pushing forward, the body will never get to rest. And this tells the nervous system to stay in a vigilance. We are in a bracing position. It's effort, performance. All of those things put us in an energetic state that aren't conducive to feeling our best selves. And even spiritual practices can start to feel like pressure because we're forcing ourselves to do them. And it's again these questions: am I enough? Am I aligned enough? Am I manifesting correctly? And that is not empowerment. That is survival dressed up as being strong. So embodied power, power that actually feels how we should, doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with feeling settled within ourselves. It can feel like steadiness, like you don't wobble when things don't go your way, for instance. It can feel like clarity. Decisions are clearer, not loud. They feel quite clear in your own mind. It can feel like a warmth, like a sense of inner permission, rather than we're forcing ourselves forward. And then it's also that self-trust. You don't need constant reassurance. You believe yourself and you know your intuition. This kind of power isn't trying to convince anybody. It doesn't need a witness. It's not brittle. It's not reactive. And it's not something that's going to collapse under the pressure. It holds. It's firm and steady within you. True personal power has a real shape to it. The shapes like boundaries that you don't need to explain, decisions that you don't need to over justify, and your intuition you don't need to second guess immediately. You just trust it. And finally, a presence that doesn't need to rush or feel silence. You just know. People often mistake quiet power for softness or being passive, but quiet power is actually containment. It means your energy isn't leaking everywhere, you're able to manage that yourself, and it means you're not constantly negotiating what your self-worth is. And that's a really important one. Power that requires constant activation isn't power, that's just your adrenaline. That's a physical manifestation of it. And that's why embodied energy work, we choose that over being overstimulated. And stones can support that confidence and calm within us. Confidence without calm becomes like aggression and performance anyway. And calm without confidence becomes withdrawal. So you need that balance. Stones can teach us that our nervous system doesn't need power to mean that we're in danger. And when the body believes that, everything changes. The truth is, if you've ever had to push to feel powerful, or to prove your worth, or to manifest to be enough, then that work doesn't offer you the real truth. Your power is about building capacity within you to deal with those situations. And capacity within you is about steadiness and clarity and warmth and self-trust. It's not about dominating situations, it's not about performance, and it's not about pressure. So chapter 3, crystal healing as emotional regulation. So crystal healing supports the middle chakras by offering resonance rather than pressure, what we just talked about in chapter 2, grounding while emotions move through our body, which we did in episode 1, and then supporting it without that overwhelm. And as a qualified crystal healer, I always remind my students, if emotions rise while working with stones, that is not a failure. That is information. We don't bypass the feelings, we let them move safely through our body. So chapter 4, the stones we're going to work with on our middle chakras. So citrine is great for confidence and personal power. It's also good in abundance magic, but citrine is a beautiful crystal to work with. It supports that self-worth and motivation and joy without making us aggressive or using that power state. It's a stone for reclaiming our confidence, building trust within ourselves, and reconnecting to that pleasure and creativity. So citrine reminds us you don't need permission to shine. It's a great stone, I love it. And then amazonite, which is that heart-centered truth, it bridges the heart and the throat chakra, so it sits in between the two. And it really supports with emotional harmony, speaking gently but really clearly, and being honest without being harsh. I could probably use that sometimes. Amazonite teaches us that boundaries and compassion can work together and they can coexist. So lapis lazuli is an ancient stone that's been used for centuries, millennia, and it's all about expression and inner wisdom. And lapis lazuli is a stone of truth and wisdom and authentic voice. It was used by poets historically too. And it supports self-expression, intuitive insight, and speaking from an inner knowledge, which is super important. So lapis doesn't encourage noise, it encourages us to think more clearly. So chapter 5, we are going to go into a gentle practice for balance and expression. And I want you to try this practice when you feel unheard, uncertain, or you're just disconnected from feeling yourself. So I want you to choose one of the stones that we've talked about and hold it near your heart or by your throat and just breathe really, really slowly. And I want you to ask yourself, what do I feel right now? What do I need to honour? What is coming forward right now? And I want you to notice the sensations in your body, the emotions, even resistance. And let whatever arises be enough, because this isn't about forcing truth. This is about letting it surface naturally. Middle chakra work can bring emotions to the surface, so go really slowly, pause when you need to, and ground back into your body if things feel intense. Crystal healing is supportive and complementary. It's not a replacement for medical or mental health care. And if this episode resonated, don't forget to subscribe and share wild wisdom with all of those that are seeking, grounded, heart-led energy work. And let me know in the comments, where do you feel blocked? Is it your confidence, your heart, your voice? And in part 3, we're going to move into the higher chakras with intuition, clarity, and about upper chakra work without disassociation. And we always do that in a grounded and embodied way. I'll see you next time.